Hey guys, Dutchy here bringing you some more Stormgate action. Today we've got a Celestial versus Infernal with Kiim, who I've casted a game of before in the bottom left. And in the top right of Malice Depth, we've got SenegaloRuskov, which I've also casted. But the games I casted were not of these two versus each other, they were versus different players. So today we have them versus one another. We see Senegalo opening up with a vault opener, very interesting, into double effigy, looking to expand off of this. So my guess is he's going to try to scout / harass into a expansion and maybe even a quick 3 shrine if he sees a greedy celestial player. That's my guess. You kind of make up for your delayed natural by seeing if you can go a really early third. So let's see, where's this little guy going, huh? Guess he does need a meat farm, or a tribute pyre, excuse me. There he goes. Interesting opener. And we do see a greedy opener from Kiim. I do think Kiim is a macro-oriented player. I don't think in any of the games I've played versus Kiim or casted, I have really seen Kiim do anything but macro, and respect to that. Because right now there are some one-base celestial openers that seem quite oppressive. Some would even say a free win, and Kiim is like, nah, I'll play for real. But here we go. So, ooh, okay, he surged, I think accidentally in the wrong building. Maybe it was a wee bit of a panic, but he has a second surge. Not ideal to have to use both surges, but he is able to use it to get an Argent out, so it's not a complete waste. Second Argent on the way, and both buildings do survive. Now, better than nothing, but unfortunate. At the same time, thinking out loud, you do need that Argent to come out to defend this. A Surge alone won't defend this long enough. So maybe it was a necessary choice considering that the Fiends got in while the wall was up. I think it was probably Kiim doing the right thing in a bad scenario. So I take it back, but certainly not ideal to have to use both of your Surges like that. There's certainly more optimal ways to do it, but you do what you need to do in certain times. Alright, what do we got here? Starforge behind this. Okay. I don't think this is Kiim's typical go-to, so I wonder if Kiim has been working on some new openers. You know, I like the little small Argent squad, and then working in a Vector, I think that's interesting. Usually we see one or the other. We really don't see both together. And I don't really see a good reason for that other than that they kind of do the same job in terms of they both shoot air and ground. You kind of want to kite with them unless you have, really significant numbers. So maybe there's just kind of a lot of overlap and you're better off economically choosing one or the other. But at the same time, off a 2-base, this is a nice squad that you wouldn't have quite yet. And this might make it a lot easier to fight for that first Stormgate than, triple Archship into double Vector like RL likes to do. Now RL can make that work, but man, this seems pretty cool. I like this. This seems more, I'll call it a little bit more middle of the road version. It's almost like going Marines into, Marines into Hellions. Sorry about that. My settings got a little goofy. There we go. Okay, so this Vector is doing its kiting thing while Kiim's standing on this side of the Stormgate. So we got a little bit of units standing on each side of the Stormgate, and this makes sense because if you try to chase your opponent and your opponent kites back, your opponent's only going to be shooting at your army while half your army is going to get aggroed on the Stormgate. So there's always a little bit of this, what I'll call defender's advantage at Stormgate. Now, superior numbers and certain units can break that rule, but there is a lot of that, especially I think Vanguard is the one that actually benefits the most from it, because they are the best kiting faction, and it's definitely a kiting type of defensive mechanic. So, yeah, it makes sense that the faction that, leans heavily into that style gets the most value for it. Now, Senegalo doing a nice job actually pushing Kiim off of the Stormgate there. I don't think... Oh, Curse was done. What am I talking about? I'm half paying attention. I apologize. clearly I'm half paying attention. But okay, so nice timing build by Senegalo to be able to go off of you know, that Vault opener and still have Curse for that first Stormgate fight. He didn't have it right away, so I think he was buying time, but neither player could really attack into each other based off what I said. Neither had a significantly larger army, and so you can't just run past the Stormgate, because if your opponent sits here and you're trying to run past it and they attack and then you A move, some of your units are going to get, you know, are going to start focusing that Stormgate. So I just think, you know, Senegalo has a really nice opener here that Infernal should pay attention to. Now, he has, did he cut the trees already? A little hard to see, but I believe you have to cut the trees to get through here. So getting a 4th base behind this, I mean, both players have decided, okay, first Stormgate fight happened, time to just macro up a bit. Seeing him hold on to the Power Stone, I wonder what he's saving it for. And here we've got Kim going out with some vectors to check. So Senegalo has a little bit of a supply lead and a base lead. Now, one base up for Infernal is not the end of the world, but it is bad if they have supply and a base up. So let's see what Kim does to try to kind of even that playing field. Okay, one brute goes down, better than nothing. Oh, goes for the Gaunt? Yeah, still gets, I was going to say, I would have just taken the safe Fiend kill, but look at that, he gets the Fiend kill anyway. What do we got? More chambers going down and more chambers. We see a Ascension Matrix, and we see that the Starforge was sold and turned into 2 Legion Halls. I've been seeing a lot of Celestials do this, and if you're a Celestial player, you should definitely be abusing it. I've been playing some games against Celestial players that have been doing it, and it's really difficult because you see them with one tech, and then they switch to another with very little economic punishment because they can sell the building, and then they get all the value back for it minus 50 Luminite. I should say they get all the Luminite back minus 50, and then when they spend it, let's say they were to build the exact same building again, then that building is 50 Luminite cheaper. So when you build a new building, you get your money back, is the simple way of thinking about it. And so they can kind of do a tech switch with no cost resource-wise, but what it does cost them is build time, which is definitely something to mention. We do see a lonely cat here, must be on a rally. I can relate to this very much. Let's see, the brute stuns and charges do end up taking it down. There was also a chance maybe for Senegalo, didn't need to, but maybe there's a chance for Senegalo to shoot a skull on that Carnivex, so that if the Carnivex tried to run away a little faster, it wouldn't have mattered. Now, we see a lot of Cabal, but what we don't see is really any DPS units. I mean, I say that, and there's the Animancer. So maybe the Cabal are here to buy some time. We see the Hexamines deflecting the flank here. Very nice play by Senegalo. We see the Cabal here making it hard for Senegalo to push into that, because Debilitate is a hell of a drug. And the Animancers on this side zoning the army, very nice. But I'm going to be expecting, you know, more Hellborn, maybe tier 3, and maybe even some Weavers to come as a response to this. I could also see Magmadon speed, but Senegalo saying, yeah, no, I ain't fighting into that. And if it's 3 base versus my 5 base, I see no reason to force myself into a bad fight. You know, no problem putting on pressure. But if that pressure is looking dicey and you know you're ahead on micro, just do what Senegalo did and back on off. You don't have to force the issue when you're ahead. Don't sit and do nothing. But if it's dicey, don't force it. So, we got the Animancers here looking. There's the Weaver I was talking about. Yeets in that Animancer. That poor girl got to cast a storm and no more. We've got lots of Cabal and Animancers together here with some Kree. Now, this is a pretty scary army, but Senegalo's army is more than big enough to handle it. We see a Dark Prophecy going down, zoning the left side here. We see some Debilitates going down. This Concave is just amazing. Nice Gravity Flux to keep the, I forget what they're called. I call them the Explodey guys off, but it's just not enough. 3 base to 5 base, working on 6 versus a Concave like that and being down on supply was just too much. Despite, kind of looks like the Hellborn is holding up the other Hellborn, doesn't it? But that is the Gravity Flux, and some other nice play by Kim for sure. GG, well played. Senegalo's opener was really nice. I think Infernals should pay attention to Senegalo. Alright, on to the next one. Alright, now we are on to game 2 of Kiim versus Senegalo. We get to be on Divided Oasis this time, which is always a treat for me. I made the map. I love the map. I think it looks great. We tend to have nice, long, big battle type of games. I've seen a lot of good games on this map, so I'm excited to see what happens on this game. We have got Senegalo in the bottom left of the map, and we've got Kiim as the Celestial in the top right. I will say, it makes me a little sad to see the palm trees die to the Shroud, because they just look like dead mushrooms or something, but, you know, infernal things. At the same time, I do love that the Shroud has an effect and like kind of a corrosive effect on its surroundings, if you will, kind of a toxic, polluting, you know, dead focused style to it. I like it, very thematic. You know, it's got that. The little guys sacrifice themselves for buildings. You got tribute pyres. It's a vibe. I do very much enjoy the infernal vibe. Celestial's got a cool vibe too. High-tech alien floaty things. Why not? And Vanguard, of course, being the human faction, is, well, a vibe we all know too well. Okay, so we've got, again, the same opener from Senegalo, so feeling very good about this opener. Like I said, pay attention to this opener. He believes it in himself, it appears, you know? And he's going to run it until it runs no more, because that's what you do in RTS. When you find something that works, you force your opponents to figure it out by doing it to them game after game. It is our moral obligation as RTS players to do that to one another. Anyway, let's see. Pretty safe opener, using the arc ship to wall off. Also has a wall here, kind of interesting from a defensive standpoint, but definitely denies the run by. And it's not that hard to break down a tree on your own. I've never seen somebody wall off both sides and take the expansion. So Kiim doing some cool stuff. I like it from a fact that, you know, you're not running those fiends in there and using it to get the quick third arc ship. Why not? Like I said, it is a big map. We usually have lots of action on this map. Might as well prepare your economy for it. This is a little off target, but who am I to judge? I do it too. And what I mean by on target, if you click on it, you can see the 90-degree line if you've placed it correctly. The Shroud, I will admit, kind of hides the detail I put, but I did add a little boop for where you want to kind of center your mouse when placing them if you want them in the right spots, right? But I do see that the Shroud probably hides that a bit. But there you go. If you didn't know, now you know. Most maps have it, actually. Mine is far from the only one. I certainly did not come up with the idea, but I made sure to implement it. That's for sure. See, there it is on here. A little hard to see when it's doing the change of day. It's always a little hard to see right at dusk and dawn, but then it gets better quick. We've got the first Stormgate spawning in the right Stormgate. I would say it's a wee bit closer to Senegalo, but nothing significant. I've been noticing on some maps that Infernals can just Shroud Highway to Stormgates, even the first one if they're active with their Shroud. I don't like that. This was not the reason this map was big, but it makes me appreciate maps that are a bit more medium to large size. In that regard, if a map is small, I just think we should do our best as map makers to keep the Stormgates far away enough from the bases where you cannot Shroud Highway to it or have a advantage from one player location to their natural or something like that that is just unfair to the other. This one is pretty well centered, so not bad. Kiim saying, nah, you can have this one, doesn't even contest it. What is Kiim up to? Very, very passive, macro-oriented playstyle this game. Early Carnivex, I like it. Carnivex do cost a lot more than they used to. Excuse me. Still getting over my cough. They cost more than they used to in this patch. They cost 25 more on both resources. And their stats didn't change, but they did get a quite nice upgrade for tier 3. So I guess they're weaker early and their numbers will always be lower. But the tier 3 upgrade definitely makes it a unit worth investing in. going ahead and denying the 4th base. So really nice start. I'm liking this strategy because we do see a lot of Infernals going very macro-oriented, but limited on their production, sometimes even limited on their tech, and just kind of going heavy brute gaunt. And that is a really difficult, frustrating playstyle to play against. Also, if you're seeing your opponent being a Hexen user, like we saw in last game, Carniveks are really nice for not really having too much of a problem with the Hexen mines, whereas Kree and Argent, and of course Scanners, yes, Scanners can see them, but you sure don't want to run into them. Those units suffer very much from the Hexen mines. So this being a nice reaction, and speaking of reaction, I'm seeing Hellborn and even getting the empowered Hellborn. Look at that big daddy. Now, for those you don't know, it gives you extra health, but it also gives you extra attack speed. See that minus 0.43? You get an attack speed increase. So, you know, that number being negative actually means that it attacks faster, right? So see how there's no numbers here on this Hellborn and 240 health. If I click on this one, we've got 500 health and minus 0.43 on the attack speed. Very nice. So 1.3 attack speed versus, well, they both have 1.3, but this one's minus 0.3. So very nice. So less than 1. Very nice. I sometimes forget about the attack speed part. That's also why it's really nice on Carniveks. You know, get that extra lifesteal on that thing for the extra attacks. Very good synergy. Power Stone on Carniveks. If you don't know, now you know. You've got this Gaunt here doing a little bit of scouting, I guess. Why not? Senegalo just slow and steady wins the race, taking that 4th base. But Kiim actually really doing a good job with his own 4th base. And I think a lot of that had to do with denying this one. Now, I say 4th base, there is a 5th base on the way, but look, this 4th base has 2 workers. You can't even really count that. Meanwhile, I'm seeing 9 workers over here. So Kiim doing a great job this game and staying ahead on supply. Remember what I said last game, it's one thing to be behind a base with Infernal. It's another if you're behind on supply and a base. This time, Kiim staying ahead on supply for the time being. Very nice. We see the Infernal making a move over here. I'm seeing some mines getting placed. Walking into that, but I do see a nice balanced army this time, using the gravity fluxes to pick up. Was that a mine steal attempt? These Cabal are a little out of place, but they are doing a good job lifting up and doing debilitates. Now, lifting up is really helpful because it just reduces the count of the Hellborn enough for the Carniveks not to get hard countered by them, because Hellborn do hard counter Carniveks. But if half of them are being lifted in the air, that changes it. It's a really nice army comp, really nice engage as well. But we do see these defensive mines. It's a little scary for Kiim to run up here. But Kiim, you know, feels really good about that fight. I'm sure I would too. And is saying, I can do some damage off of this. Very cool. I'm liking this army comp. So we see the Hellborn and the Brute Gaunt coming here, pushing. We do see some Spriggans going down too. I like that a lot because this was a very ground melee heavy focused army. So seeing these Spriggans is just an excellent reaction. Seeing even just a couple of them, but there's so few that these Cabal and Argent were actually enough. We really needed a Hellspawn Resurgence, which I just don't think he has the energy for. And if you watched my previous cast, you will know that I always say that Senegalo does not bank on Hellspawn Resurgence much, but when you're limited on your Twilight Spire, it can actually be really helpful to get, you know, 4 more Spriggans out there. That would have changed things. And boy, that really caught Senegalo with his pants down. Maybe he macroed a bit too much. What I think happened was, so Senegalo tried to take the 4th base, right? Got denied. Kiim took a 4th. Then Senegalo said, all right, fine. I'm going to take a 4th and a 5th to try to catch back up. And then Senegalo went into the tech route. Kiim went into the tech of Carniveks, Kree, and Cabal, which caught Senegalo really off guard, because Senegalo was probably feeling pretty confident about where he was sitting, and then ran into that comp, and it really, you know, Gravity Flux changed the game on that one with the debilitates on the other units, and the Carniveks doing a great job soaking up those mines, which he did not have last game. So great adjustment by Kiim. I would have loved to see a game 3. Unfortunately, we don't have one, because I would be curious how Senegalo would respond to this, but very nicely done by Kiim. nice, clean, decisive victory. I think Kim really didn't make any mistakes this game. Deflected the initial macro nicely, played the map nicely, denied the fourth, took a good fight. The only thing that Senegalo really got was that first Stormgate, and Kim sort of just let him have it. So, well played by Kim. Thanks for the game, guys. I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.